Purangamatanga-padangamena Bhringanarah panchaviranchitah kim Purangamatanga-padangamena Bhringanarah panchaviranchitah kim. The deer, the elephant, the moth, the fish, and the honeybee. These meet their death because of their attachment to one of the five senses. Then what is the condition of a man who is attached to all the five senses? I don't know. This is from Vivek Chudamani of Shankaracharya. I don't want to go into explaining each of these. This is very, very simple and very nice shloka. Which always brings to our mind how we are attached to any one of these senses and we are dragged.
Thank you. These reminders, how much we discuss, tell each other, are less because we are dealing with senses all the time. Only cure to not get swayed away with these senses is if we get swayed away with the God within. That is the easiest way. When our interest in that develops, then all the energy is withdrawn from the senses all the time. Then the person is like a fish out of water. If some even mundane job you are doing or important job for others, you have zero interest. You just want to do some prayer or some japa or just sit, and then you become exactly what Bhagavan says, involved in disinterested action all the time. You're doing, but your whole mind is into the divine within you. It is crying for that. We say there is a word in Hindi, viyog, like when you are separated, and that separation also has a type of a suffering, but this suffering is very not painful suffering. It is a very blissful suffering in a way, like you just want to be there, you want to be there. It is full of love, and only when you are into it you understand what it is, So when bhakta, when a devotee is for that, all your energy stays there only. It is some unseen love for the purity in your heart, for which you are always involved. Involvement doesn't mean that you have to always do some prayer or bhajan or any practice. There is just this longing keeps you there. I think that is the best way to be away from senses, because if you restrain yourself with these senses, then it causes more perversions, I believe. This is what my understanding is. That is why some people in spirituality, rather than having normal thing, they become monsters and sometimes very perverted people. Better that let whatever the natural things are happening, your interest comes to Brahman, to pure awareness, then everything it sets right. Sometimes in religious groups or religions, they make different hierarchy, and then people are working for that particular religion, and they have not sorted themselves out with these senses, and they have to restrain because they have rule book to follow, and then it becomes very ugly. That energy which is not being channeled properly, it comes in a bad way, bad shape, worse than a normal human being. Though they work in religious organizations for God, but they actually work for devil. To an extent that people start disliking organized religions. And that is true for all religions. Best is to stay in your natural state with everything and develop your interest for the divine within. More the interest develops, more that energy stays there, because you are getting everything without giving any sensual pleasure through sense organs. You are getting that bliss, that pleasure within you all the time. And how, some people ask me how to develop that interest. I can't answer. If it is not in you, what can you do? If it's not there, then keep doing what you're doing. When it happens, it happens. That longing, interest in it also just comes. When it comes, it comes. Ask for help from the divine within to develop that interest if you are interested in it. So people I have seen who develop interest are either they're inquisitive, they have done some practices in past, so they have interest in it somehow. The other group of people come into it when they understand that there is a lot of suffering in this world. Let's try to find a permanent solution to this suffering, and then they come into it. But anyway, I think it's all grace which brings us here, and this pure energy. Trust this pure energy within you, around you, in everything. Everything speaks from that only. Once we get absorbed in this energy, it takes care of each and everything. I have to say that even when you are not in this energy, or you don't feel this energy, or you're not interested in, still it is taking care of everything. But we, because of our egoistic nature, we don't give credit to it. We give credit to ourselves for all good stuff, and we give discredit to the world around us for all the things which we are not able to get, whether it's money, name, fame, whatever, health. We always blame others for that. Silence holds the key. A person is made up only of thoughts. The more you start receding from these thoughts by your interest in divine, you attain pure silence. Then this silence, this divine silence, becomes like a shield around you, where the mind cannot penetrate. Mind cannot take away your bliss, happiness. And mind has to pause and reflect and present in front of this silence And this silence chooses whether to do something or not with its own intuitive intelligence. And it treats these thoughts as a slave or a orderly who has no authority to select for us. So it brings the thought, comes to that silence and will wait and disappear. Rarely a thought will be heard by this silence to do a particular thing, very rarely. Most of the work happens in intuitiveness. This is the power of this pure silence. Now, coming from any religious background, you can call this silence as Christ or Shiva or whatever, or nothing, or Atman or Brahman or self. But this is what we all are. Not just human beings, but everything. It all depends how much that particular thing, a being, is capable of understanding that that is what you are. And we all know that in Bhagavan's presence there were even animals who were able to understand that what they are. And it is not during Bhagavan's presence that animals were able to understand the truth. Even in old scriptures, Kak Bhushundi was a crow who got enlightened. And we have so many other stories like that. Keep your attention to that divine awareness within you. And then you don't have to restrain or control these sense organs, which all takes us to the hellish life, addicted life to those things. As Neelakantanji was saying, that all these creatures who are addicted to only one thing, they lose their life with that attraction. We have so many attractions. But if we develop one attraction to the divine, it takes care of everything. And if people have difficulty in differentiating what is divine energy and what is ego energy is which is planning life of a body, always dirty, ugly and low level. How much money this body can get, how much clothing, travel, name, fame, relationships. It only thinks about this body. Body's well-being is the only aim of this ego energy. Though you can say it fulfills its role beautifully, but it keeps you in a cage. No freedom. No freedom from thought, no freedom from mind. And surprisingly, people think this is freedom, that whatever the mind says and I do, this is freedom. To that extent, we are ignorant fools. Freedom is from mind, not freedom of mind. All these people who think they are free, only the mind speaks and they do what Mind tells them they are slave of the mind. And a jnani is free from mind. He has nothing to do, nothing to accomplish. He is contented without anything and with everything also. There is full stop to doer-ship forever. But still there can be intense activity happening around that energy. But there is no doer-ship in it. So there is no stress of anything. It is all play of energy, what type of energy you are perceiving within you, from where you are acting, from where you are moving in this world. And this shift makes a huge change in us, very big change. Only the one who has gone through it or going through it can say. And again, if a person says, it is very difficult for someone to understand it, because mind will just take up as some experience. Intellect fails to convey the meaning, even words fail to convey. Only thing which can convey is if you also experience the same. You enter into this domain of pure presence, pure love, pure bliss. And it is not mind, it is not a different state of mind. Understand this truth. Mind is something which can also have joy and can have euphoria, can even have many episodes or which ecstasies. But then it is always up and down. It goes up and then comes down. People who experiences really manic, blissful episodes, they go deep into depression. That's why we call it bipolar. They go from one pole to the other pole, like pendulum. But this is constant, satat, eternal, perpetual, like a flowing river. But in this also there can be spurts of too much of bliss, especially when the energy is very new in first couple of years or few years even. Or some people even keep getting those deep trance states on and off. And that is the reason Bhagavan always used to say, when you get into these trance states, samadhi, keep your eyes open, because you can go very deep and then it becomes like a habit. Then you can't function in that energy, you just get completely lost into it. In Bhagavan's case, he was in that state for many years initially, and then even later years, sometimes he used to get into it, and then they have to play the drums and conch shell and all to wake him up, because everyone was waiting for lunch and he is deep in his samadhi. There is no harm even in that. I don't see any harm in that. Except for others, you look like stoned. You are not involved in anything. Sometimes people have addictions, and to break their addictions, they are given some other similar agent to break that addiction, isn't it? like morphine addicts, they are given naltrexone and similar things, which are less addictive and less harmful. But on the path of spirituality, we go for a thing which is more addictive and not harmful at all, which is the divine name. When you get addicted to that, then all addictions go away simultaneously. Then you don't have to fix up anything. Then you're giving up all this package of mind, whatever it gives us. You just leave everything. Then this addiction becomes so intense that any other activity is like a burden or no interest. It is completely changed perception about life. Then whenever you have time, you want to spend just with your own self. And all these moments which looks boring, waiting to see a dentist or in a queue or driving a long distance, you don't want to cut that silence by music and listening to something. You just want to be in that silence of your own. And other times you want to listen to some bhajan or some satsang or something like that. But all energy is drawn into it. Then it becomes like whatever you are doing in life, your attention is always into it. For a sansari person, worldly person, if he sees a fakir or a seeker, they cannot understand because you're not getting anything out of it. Rather, you're losing in a way. Perhaps you would have worked more and earned more money, or did something else, or traveled, or seen a new place or a thing. Here you are just there all the time. But only a person who has found this can understand what it is. During India's independence, there were so many freedom fighters who wanted to die for the country, and young in their 20s. Can you believe so many of them became enlightened souls? So many of them. Because they were pure, they were not doing anything for themselves, they were doing for the country, fighting the system. And when they were put in jail for a couple of years, they just went in and found the truth. They went as a person and they came out as divine. Even they made that jail as the blessing for themselves. Look into their history, beautiful. Their biography, Aurobindo, Hanuman Prasad Poddar, and so many of them. During COVID times, I know so many of people around me were complaining they couldn't meet their family or friends or grandkids. People in their 80s were crying with big tears. We couldn't see our grandkids for 2 months or 3 months. This was the time when we were doing satsang every day, virtual, and we were in so much of bliss. If we feel any deficiency, abhav, anything, we are at loss. Understand we are definitely in a very bad ego mode. Because what we are, there is no deficiency of anything. We are complete. We are purna, whole, no deficiency. And because we feel deficiency in ego mode, we keep filling it up with things and objects. We become hoarders. I know people who have got 10 cars in their house between two people. They have a big garage as big as their house to keep those cars. And things don't end there. They put a glass where the car is kept so they can see from their living area the beautiful car. There's no end to this attraction, attachment. No end. Not even one life is enough. And there is only one solution to all this nonsensical life: knowing the truth, knowing the divine in us, having some interest in it. And whatever you have to do for it, do it. Hold a guru's feet, read some scripture, do bhajan, do japa, do self inquiry, self attention, whatever. It doesn't matter what path you choose, how you reach, just reach. But reach in a way by which you can be permanently, eternally established in it. No back and forth. Right now we are addicted to this life, but once we get addicted to that life, then job is done. These satsangs are only to make you addicted of that, nothing else. Then you stay on your auto mode, it just happens everything. Once we fall prey to that pure self, it is like tiger's mouth. Your ego cannot escape now. And then comes a stage in which, even if you don't want to remember, you can't help. It remembers itself in its own way all the time. once it has taken over your possession on you, now that you in you has no authority. It just takes over. Then you wonder that when this surrender happened, when all this changed. It is like a love affair in which first you are after someone and you try your best and you have tried and tried and tried and tried, and finally you get that beloved. Now, if you want to leave, you can't leave. It is a one way. Now, once that lover within you has come out, now you can't escape. Now you are gone. And you become one with that. And you realize this lover for whom you were waiting and waiting and waiting for so long, and you tried everything, is so beautiful, so pure. And you feel that how lucky I am. I am that sinner in a way, did all stupid things in life. Still, I got that pure love within my heart. So, this, what you say, union, is not at equal level. This union is unmatched. Male, like you see someone very tall and wife too short, a man black, wife white, or whatever. No match. Do you think there's a match to ego with this lover? Once you know this purity in you, and you know from where you are coming, how stupid we are, what would you do? You can only have tears of joy and more gratitude and more love, because that divine Shiva has embraced you from within you. And we all know our weaknesses. We all know that we were always incapable of knowing the truth. How lucky we are. And I have to tell you another very, very important point. So many people in this world wants to achieve in this world, whether it has to do with your qualification or wealth or relationships. But it all comes as predestined. You can put efforts and you can also give credit to your efforts if you want, but it all happens if it has to happen. So, in a way, it is not completely in your hand. And it depends on your prarabdha karma, your brownie points. But to know the purest of pure is not dependent on your karma, is not dependent on your destiny, is only dependent on your longing. It's not that you go to an astrologer, show your hand, and tell whether in this life I will get enlightened or not. It's not in the astrology book. Whatever these lines on your hand tells, they don't tell about the liberation, because liberation is so spontaneous. This body and this life will continue, but you will be liberated from this body life. Like a in a second, in a fraction of a second. If you long for it, you are just pulled out of this drama. Suddenly you are out. And there are subtle signs of this awareness unfolding in all of us. And we all know those signs. We start knowing those signs within us when this energy becomes really high. Most of the people feel some vibration, some sensations, a deep sense of bliss all the time. And thoughts, there's not even a thought about thoughts. What to say about disturbance due to thoughts? All becomes a distant noise, if at all it is. And life moves like a floating life. It floats, it just. Whichever direction it takes or doesn't take, or you sit. Because this energy is beyond this linear progression in time and space. Time and space is a domain only of mind, where everything is changing. Some things last too long, so it appears they are not changing. But if you analyze, everything is changing. But understand everything, even in this domain of time and space, which we say this whole word, gets energy from the source, which is beyond it. And nothing is without that pure intelligence. Don't think that you are the most intelligent person in the world, human being. Even a grain of sand, an atom, is also as intelligent or maybe more intelligent than you. And all the experiments done in science have proven that these particles, smallest particles, also behaves in a peculiar way if you watch them or if you don't watch them. Like double slit experiment and so many other things being done in science. So how can you say these particles are not smart? They are super smart because they all carried with that pure awareness, pure energy. Energy can do anything. Whether you call these things as insentient, inanimate, doesn't matter. They are very smart. Trust and have faith in this pure energy. Keep looking for this within you. If you're honest in your looking, you will find it. How much we are surrounded by darkness or ignorance doesn't matter. You can keep groping your hands in darkness and eventually you will get there. Only thing needed is your longing and trust and perseverance, and stay there, stay there, stay there. But then don't take this energy to, okay, I'm coming, wait, and I have to sort out this thing, and I have to teach a lesson to this man, and then again getting accomplice to your ego. Then again, whatever you have gained will be lost. Stay in this energy so your ego gets completely dissolved. No duality is left. No personal ambitions and desires are left. No agendas are left. Only pure wisdom, pure intelligence. And when we attain this intelligence, this wisdom, we realize nothing needs to be done, nothing is important. At the same time, everything is equally important. Our mind says watching movies is important, washing dishes is not important, so it becomes boring. And we rush to do what we love to do, and perhaps I feel washing dishes is more blissful than watching a movie, because you are on your own in your bliss, no else, no voices, no drama happening in front. Your silence and some noise of, I believe, washing dishes. It all changes your perception about life once you experience this divinity within you. When we go out, we get impressed by people. So many people we get impressed by their stature, by their personality, by their money or their position or their looks. But once you know this in you, then you get into self-love. It's not that you're watching yourself always in mirror, but there's something about your solitude. Then you realize the best company is company of self, Atman. All other companies are fake, useless. Now nothing can impress you, because you have touched the purest of pure. Nobody can even compete with that. Then the nearest, closest, pure thing to that is only a seeker, because he's almost there, or at least facing that way. When we withdraw energy from all the senses and we stay still and wait for this divinity to manifest, starts unfolding within us, then no external person has to tell you what it is. You will know it. When it happened to Bhagavan, he had no clue what this was. But he was in bliss. He was not looking for it at that time. He had not read any scriptures. He was not having so much of bookish knowledge as we all have now. But when it happened to him, he even thought maybe something has overpowered everything. But whatever it was, he felt it was very divine. He used to go to the temple and stand in front of Shiva's idol or Meenakshi, or share with saints and other things, and he just used to just stand and tears used to flow. Abide in your pure stillness. Once we abide in our pure stillness, restlessness of mind also disappears. It has been restless for millions and millions of years. Finding stillness within you, you're also helping this mind, this poor mind, whom we have misused and abused by asking us to give us this, that. Sometimes we want two opposite things at the same time and confuses it. Now it also wants rest. Just shut up and give up all this. Outward going, just bring it back. As Bhagavan says, Chumma yeru, keep quiet. That's all. Other day we did satsang, and one of the persons attending satsang has written in Tamil on his forehead, Chumma yeru. I thought that's a good thing. You can keep reading it, All practices are there as long as you don't know that energy. Once it comes to you, it then takes over. Then it does everything within you. If it wants you to practice something, the practice happens. Then that energy does everything. Our job is to surrender to that. Sometimes I meet people who are not yet ardent seekers, but they have some interest, and they say, oh, nowadays I'm very busy, my business is thriving, and I have no time for meditation, but I'll come back to it one day. Next time you meet, their business is down and they are in losses. They say, "Oh, I'm very stressed, I have to sort these things out, then I'll come back." There's never a time. You can't win any arguments from mind. Mind can give all sorts of excuses. And then one day death comes without knocking on the door. Death knocks on the door of all jnanis. They know it long before it comes, whether they tell or not. But it comes without knocking to an ignorant. Because ignorant is in so much of deep slumber that even if it's knocking, they don't hear it. It gives its own subtle warnings. They don't hear it. And they have postponed their own unfoldment so many times now that they die sleeping. Hope in this birth we don't die this way. We die alive. So alive that even the death is nothing. So death comes, it takes away what it has to take, and all what it has to take, we have already given up. So it cannot take anything. Be that alert. We can't talk about the next life. Nobody has seen next life, and nobody knows what future holds. Whether you become a rock or a cat or a human being or a tree, whether you remember to know the truth, finish job right now. And it's so easy, so simple, so direct. Recognize your inner silence, which is constant flow like a river. Be with that. So when thoughts arise, in the substrata of this pure silence, you don't hear them, you don't acknowledge them. So they come and they go. When you behave complete stranger to all these thoughts, initially they come with vengeance and we call it mind attack, and then you stay here. And they try their best, last attempt to pull you back, but you stay here. And then after this period of, you can say, the last test, sometimes people call it the dark phase before complete enlightenment, you have won this war against Maya and it never troubles you. Now you can never be fooled again. Now nobody can deceive you. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Arunachal Ramanaya Om. Om. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you everyone.